expected.
Let me guess. 1 year out of the academy, 0 combat experience, little punk thinks the shit don't stink. Well, just to let you know,
The shit does stink.
stinks like shit.
If you'll just give me a shot.
Give this your shot.
Oh, my freaking nose! Yeah, if you'll excuse me, it's time to round up a real team.
And welcome to the J2C show. Curran holding with you tonight, joined by special guests from Shot Mechanics. A very big program that's going and really making a scene here in the USA and all around the world. I'm joined here with Jake Wilbur from Shot Mechanics. And Jake, welcome on the show. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You just came back from a big trip over in Vegas, over there for the NBA Summer League. So, I mean, that must have been a great experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, Shot Mechanics has definitely allowed us to do some things that, as a kid, I only dreamt of. So going down for the Summer League and having some, pretty exclusive access to the players and to the games was something that was a dream come true for sure.
Now, Shot Mechanics, for our audience listening to us, can you tell us a little bit of how that started and kind of what it's all about?
Yeah, man. So my high school basketball coach actually started Shot Mechanics, and at the time he was the art teacher at my high school, and so we met when I was a sophomore, and he just wanted to, he had a vision to start his own website and to teach his brand of shooting mechanics. And, our theory is that there's no, cookie cutter, perfect shot that every player can use. We play around with a lot of different theories, but what is, just individually working with each players to find their right shooting mechanics and what works best for them. And, it's cutting edge stuff that we're doing, and people are starting to catch on. So it's really kind of cool, to see how far it's come since I was a sophomore. I mean, Colin's no longer teaching anymore. He's doing Shot Mechanics full time. So, it's really kind of a cool thing.
Now, looking at the following you guys had, as I'm looking here at your main page, you started in 2011, which about 6-7 years ago, and you guys have just been taken off. I mean, you guys have over 160,000 viewers on YouTube in just that short amount of time. That's a big success right there.
Yeah, I mean, the YouTube game's tough, but I'll tell you what, Colin knows what he's doing, and, he had the drive and determination to, get it to that level. I mean, a lot of guys initially when they first start doing YouTube, we had so much free content because we were just shooting in-gym videos and stuff like that. So we were like, you know what, let's throw it on YouTube, see how it does. And, we had so much content already created that we kind of got past that initial block where most people just quit. But we pushed through it and started again a little bit of following, and, the rest is history.
And looking at it, I mean, not only do you have a good following there on YouTube, but you guys have a ton of sponsors or a ton of features as Men's Health, Jordan Brand, National Public, NPR, CBS Sports. I mean, these are big name national sponsors or national places to get featured in. So, I mean, that's a huge success right there to really bump up your guys' brand.
Yeah, I mean, Colin's done a great job of, getting Shot Mechanics out there in the public eye, and YouTube's a great platform for us to do that. And I think, one big thing why people gravitate towards us is that, we're giving out so much free content, but, it's not just about the free content. It's about educating the younger players coming up in basketball and, helping them to find their perfect shot. And, Colin's a great teacher, and people really appreciate what we do for the basketball community. And so, we've had opportunities to, be featured in publications like CBS Sports and, Men's Health and stuff like that. And, it's all because of what we're doing is kind of next level when it comes to the shooting world.
Now, I think a big thing is, which makes you guys really popular, is how the basketball game has really transcended into the drive the basket, low post type of game style to the outside shooting game. And you guys, I mean, I think it's a big benefit for you because now everybody wants to be able to shoot the 30 to 40-foot threes instead of taking it in the lane like, when we grew up back in the early thousands where we wanted to see the highlight dunks. Now we want to see the long three-pointers.
That's exactly right. Colin will say this about a million times, and it's true. If you can't shoot, you're not going to make it in today's basketball world. You got to be able to shoot the ball, and especially if you want to make it to the collegiate ranks, and then if you're good enough and athletic enough to make it to the NBA, you got to be able to shoot to stick on a team. And that's one thing that you'll see a lot of players can't do nowadays. And the players that can shoot, like the Steph Currys of the world, are really accelerating in the game, and everybody's wanting shooters on the team now, and that's kind of what the game's gravitating towards. So it's working out well for us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look on it, and if you go to their YouTube page, I mean, it is really some phenomenal stuff, and it's to the core, the basics. I mean, they make the shooting videos very simple, where you can just, you do this drill, and you can just pick it up and you just practice it. I mean, it's all reps. When you look at the guys shooting like Steph Curry, I mean, he did not get to where he was without shooting at least probably 500 to 1,000 shots every day. I mean, he can shoot with his eyes closed. That's how good that he knows his shot. But I mean, if you look at their videos, I mean, they just break it down to what you need to focus on and keep it simple. And when you have a simple stroke, I mean, that makes it just that easy to make that big shot.
Yep, that's exactly right. Colin always says that a shooter is worth his weight in gold, and that's 1,000% true in today's basketball climate. So, we love what we do over at Shot Mechanics, and we love being able to, help the next generation of basketball players, learn how to shoot the right way. And, like we said, we don't have any cookie cutter way of teaching shooting mechanics. We kind of give you guys a bunch of different things that could help increase your percentage, and then we just ask you to apply it to your game one by one, and what works, keep it. What doesn't work, don't keep it. But I think that's one thing that our followers really appreciate is that we can't tell you that there's a perfect way to shoot. Everybody has their own way, and you can find optimized mechanics and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, we're going to give you guys the content to implement certain strategies into your game and stuff like that to help take your game to the next level. So that's kind of what we do.
Now, back when I played basketball, it feels like forever ago, I was a huge shooter. I had to become a good shooter because I was not athletic. I could not run. My defense I was good at getting in front of people and drawing charges. That was about as good as my defense was going to go. And being an asthmatic, I think that alone speaks a lot about my stamina career. But man, was my shot was on fleek, as we said in the old school ways. But it helped me get a spot on the team. I was kind of the situational shooter, and so that helped a lot. But it was that focus on the shooting aspect, which is now such a huge key in this game. If I was to be able to if they ever made a basketball professional sport, for you who do not know basketball, it was a movie made by the creators of South Park, in which they involved it was like baseball mixed with horse shooting. I was a killer at horse. I mean, if they had a pro horse league, I'd be pretty decent. But
there you go.
I mean, pro basketball would be my kind of sport where I don't have to run. All I gotta do is just choose a spot where I want to shoot at and that I know I could hit. And my favorite shot was the baseline corner, 15 foot out. That was my shot. That would put me on the court. I would run side to side, just try to get to that spot and get at least a second or two ahead of my defender so I could put up a good, nice little baseliner. that was the whole offense for me when I was in the game. Back to basketball, that would be my little, if it was like a single or a double. I mean, you got to watch the movie to really understand the concept of the game. But it's one of my favorite movies too, because South Park. The guys who make South Park, it's funny, and they're putting their own twist on the sports aspect. So I would recommend that movie highly, especially when you're listening to this video, so you can understand what we were talking about on that one. But I mean, shooting today, it's really the key to win, and as Golden State has been doing it, it's the key to winning championships. I mean,
That's exactly right.
Without Steph Curry and Klay Thompson hitting, 4 or 5 threes a game, now they do have Kevin Durant, but again, he's a shooter too. Other than pretty much Draymond Green, who can shoot sometimes, but he's kind of the as we say, the garbage man, or the janitor really, the cleanup guy that takes care of the business and all the dirty work. You open up the shooters. And I mean,
exactly right.
When you do that,
being around Colin so much, I hear him talk about, shooting, and Colin wasn't, necessarily the most athletic player either. A little bit about Colin real quick. He played fastball in Clarkston, Washington. That's where he went to high school at. So he's a small town kid just like us.
That's a good high school for basketball. Clarkston's got a good program.
He played with the likes of Heitfeld. Gonzaga guy, but yeah, and Colin, that's how he stuck. He was a great shooter, and that was kind of his niche. And he always tells a lot of the kids that we play, or a lot of kids that come and ask us, for help, for if we're running camps or whatever. And one thing that he always likes to reiterate is that shooting is a great equalizer in today's game. You don't have to be the most athletic kid out there. You don't even have to be the best player on your team, but if you can shoot, you're going to find a spot on the floor, because shooting truly is the greatest equalizer in basketball. So
now, we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago, and we went through our top 5 shooters. It was the start of the NBA playoffs, and so it was actually right when they proclaimed Steph Curry as probably the greatest shooter in the NBA. Now, I was going through my lineup, and JT and JC, again, they are on the show. They're still recovering from their vacation, their wild vacation over there at Wallowa Lake, in which I will still call out that I won at mini golf. As much as they talk shit about me on mini golf, I still beat them. And we're still working. There's photos of us on the mini golf course. We're still working on getting a video of me on the goat cart putting a grandma and a 7-year-old in the wall because they got in my way. But that's for a different story. But so, yeah, I mean, we went through our top 5 shooters, and we didn't have Steph Curry there yet because, I mean, I think the fair thing is we got to give him some time and see if he's able to consistently do that for, let's say, 5 more years. I think if he's putting up the numbers from the shooting that he is in 5 more years, I have no problem putting him there in the top 2. I mean, no problem at all. Because, again, he's kind of that spark where he's consistently getting better, and now he's hitting his prime. So I think if he does what he's doing right now for 5 more years, hands down, not even the best shooter, maybe the best offensive player. He's just phenomenal on the court. Now, my question to you, Jake, looking at the NBA, can you name us, I mean, I guess we'll go past and present. What are your top 3 shooters of all time? Kind of put you on the spot here. Tough one.
No, I like it. For me, honestly, I'd have to say that, I talk to Colin a lot, and he's a professional shooting coach. And so, when we look at film and stuff like that, one of his favorite shooters, one of my favorite shooters of all time was Larry Bird.
Oh, yeah.
The dude could get buckets, and he was definitely one of the greatest shooters of all time. So, I'd say Larry would definitely be on that list. I'd already throw Steph Curry on that list because I guarantee you before it's all said and done, he's gonna be the best that's ever done it.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, if he he even said that as funny as it was on the late show with James Corden. He asked him that question: do you think you're the best shooter in the NBA of all time? And he's like, you know what? I believe in longevity of a career. And so, ask me that question in 5 years. If I'm still doing it what I'm doing right now in 5 years, then I'll consider that question. But he's like, I've been...
Oh, yeah.
So, I like the honesty that he brought, and I think that's the true thing because, again, it's only been about 5 years that he just really took off like crazy and became really a spark for the NBA from the shooting and really, brought the shooting game back up. So
for sure, yeah. I mean, Steph is unique in the fact that he can get a shot whenever he wants to. He's so herky-jerky, and he's kind of got the ability to get any sort of space. The shot's going up, and a lot of the times it's going in. So I definitely put him on the list. And of course, one of my favorite shooters of all time was Ray Allen.
Yeah.
A guy that just had such a quick release, and he was definitely, in the sense of catch and shoot guy, he was probably one of the best that's ever done it. So that would probably be my top three. I mean, I'm probably forgetting a few guys right now, but
it's a hard.
I feel like that's pretty solid.
That's a solid top three. I mean, there's a lot of great shooters out there. I'm trying to remember my top five. I think it went in the mindset of Pete Maravich at 5, because he did all his scoring before the 3-point line came into play. I mean, especially in college, he averaged 44 points a game for twos, but about 50% of those.
He got buckets.
He got buckets, and he still is the highest career total leader in points for LSU for 4 years, and there hasn't been anybody even close to his. It's like over 30. I mean, other than I'm trying to remember her name for Washington, Plum. Kelsey Plum. I mean, and what she's doing is ridiculous. I mean, she is just a phenomenal athlete, and I mean, watching her at UW tear apart my Beavers. I mean, the Beavers. And speaking about Clarkston, Jamie Wisner, another big name player that came out of Clarkston. But anyways, I mean, Pete Maravich was at 5. I think I went Jerry West at 4. I mean, Mr. Clutch says it all. Again, time of how those guys. The logo. Well, maybe not the logo for too much longer when they change it. I remember they have a lot like Kobe or Russell Westbrook or LeBron or something like that. But we'll see what they do with that. I think I had it at 3. My top 3 was. I think it went Ray Allen, and then. I think it went Reggie Miller at 2, and then Bird at 1. And the funny fact is, I was reading about Larry Bird, and they're asking him, have you always been, or if you compared yourself now to when you were in college, when was a better shooter? And he looked at the reporter, and he's just like, oh, college hands down. Because funny thing about Larry Bird, he broke his finger. I can't remember which one, but he broke a finger. His senior year in college at a celebrity softball game, or like a charity softball game for Indiana State. And so he played his whole NBA career with a busted finger on his shooting hand. Not many people know that. And so he was still a great shooter in the NBA, I mean, hands down. But he was a better shooter in college until he broke his finger. That just, I mean, you think about that. Think about what his NBA career could have been. I mean, it's scary.
I know, we've talked a lot about Larry Bird just between Colin and I. And, one thing that he tells the story all the time, but when talking about Bird was that when he was shooting his driveway, he didn't have a rebounder or anything. So he specifically aimed for the spot in the net that he knew would feed the ball back to him. And so he was hitting that spot every time, so he didn't have to use a rebounder. The ball would just feed right back to him. So, that's just a testament to show how good of a shooter he really was. I mean, he was hitting the same spot, so he didn't have to have anybody rebound the ball for him.
I mean, that's one way to do it. I remember, I mean, when I practiced my shot, that's all I did. is I'd be my own rebounder, and I would sometimes just pray that it would be a swish. So, because when I played, it was outside and we had a creek that rolled down, and so if the hoop, it was one of those old school hoops, you had the kind of the plastic base with the wheels in the front, and so if you if you made it, sometimes it would hit either a bar, it would come down, there would be a plastic side of the thing, and it would hit the side of there and then roll down. So we always had, if we did have a rebounder, we just have that person stand there on the way to the creek entrance, because it would usually hit it there one of the times and just roll down there like a rocket, and we try to save the basketball before it got in the creek, because, we'd have to spend like 20 minutes digging it out of the creek, then drying it off, getting the mud off, and it would delay our games. So that was... but I was kind of back on that show. I was kind of giving them shits and giggles, like, I think the best shooter of all time is Jimmy Chitwood from Hoosiers.
Oh yeah.
I was throwing in some fictional players for them, because then I guess you can throw in I'm trying to remember Ray Allen's character, and he got game.
Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Yep, Shuttlesworth. But I was like, Jimmy Chitwood, I really wanted to put him on my top 5, because, man, did he take that team to a whole new level. And even, and then I was going to make a joke. It's like, well, what about the manager who made the game-winning free throw? I mean, right there, I think he brought back... Oh, no, never mind. Rick Barry. I had Rick Barry on my list. It was between Jerry West and Rick Barry. And his son, oh, my goodness. Or I don't know if it's his son or his grandson playing down at Florida right now. He's a freshman.
Oh, yeah.
And he tore up that game. Yeah. That NCAA college game. And he's like a 95% free throw shooter with the underhand form. I mean, still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's impressive. When you're shooting that high percentage, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But, I mean, it helps that you have Rick Barry there to teach you how to shoot free throws. Because, I mean, again, he was like a career free throw shooter of over 90%. But, I mean, I was watching his explanation of why he did that. And it allowed him to enter or put the ball in the right spot every time consistently. And so it didn't have a chance to, like, hit the back. Because, I mean, he's like, well, if I shot overhand, it's not as accurate as shooting underhand. If you look at the angles and the degree that the ball is going in. And, it's kind of fascinating to get behind the head of Rick Barry when he was doing this. And, I mean, it's just ridiculous that it works like that.
That's impressive.
But, I mean, Jimmy Chitwood was my boy. I remember I watched that movie way too much, to be honest. A great movie, but, I mean, the whole picket fence scene still runs in my back of my mind. I tried implementing that into one of our junior high or high school games, and they just like, that's not going to work. I'm like, well, it worked on Hoosiers. It's got to work now. But no, they laughed at me. But another shot, or I guess one of my favorite shooters. I don't know if you've seen the movie Along Came Polly. And I'm talking about the Rainmaker.
Let it rain.
Let it rain. White chocolate, as he said. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Favorite scene of his by far. One of my favorites. And I did that in high school a lot. My coach wouldn't allow me to shoot the Rainmaker. And I got to the point where, I mean, it really does look like Lonzo Ball's shot right now. I think his might be a little bit cleaner than mine. Because I take the full loop and then get it over my head. So it's like a loop into a bird shot. Pretty much is what the form looks like. But it's accurate. And people are like, I shoot like that. And they're just looking and be like, how the hell can you do that? It's like tons of practice. And, if you want to play me in horse, you're going to have to learn to shoot the Rainmaker. Because that shot comes out. And I think they were counting one time. We were in a halftime or pregame of a high school basketball game, and I hit 9 in a row. And I looked over at my coach, is like, can I shoot this in the game? He just looks at me and is like, if you do that, you're going to sit on the bench the whole fucking night. I'm like, but I just hit 9 in a row. I think that deserves the one Rainmaker. Never happened. Never happened. But
Too good.
so, talking about going to Las Vegas for the Summer League, kind of run us through how that happened, how you guys got the chance to go down there.
Yeah, so the YouTube network that we are sponsored through, NBA Playmakers, basically just extended the invitation to get out there and get on court with a few guys, interview a few players, and just experience Summer League for the first time. And I'll tell you what, they really did not disappoint in terms of the hospitality and giving us all this exclusive access, letting us sit courtside and stuff like that. So it was really cool to be up close and personal to see all these young players coming into the league, and I'm just really excited about the next generation that's coming into the NBA right now. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of guys in this draft class alone that are going to be superstars.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the draft class this year had the top guy? The top guys were going to be good. We'll see what Markelle Fultz does when he gets back from his injury. I don't think it was serious. I think it was just something they play him a little bit, and if he started to show something going on with his ankle, save him for that. They don't want another Ben Simmons where he's out for a year.
Exactly.
Rest him up, put him out there, and then heal him up for the season. Because again, when you use the number one pick on a guy, you're expecting him to play. I mean, especially in a deep class that this draft had, you're expecting him to play with Lonzo Ball, Jason Tatum. Now, looking at some of these guys, when you were down there at Summer League, what players that you got to see, which ones did you think had the best performance?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the most impressive guy to me, a little off the radar here, but Dennis Smith Jr.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he was a guy that I watched, and I was like, man, this is like watching a cross between Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard out here. I mean, just his athleticism. I mean, we went and watched all three of the games that he played in while we were down there, and just seeing him up close in person, he kind of could just get in the lane whenever he wanted. The way he elevates, I don't know if you saw he actually missed the dunk, but man, if he would have got it down, it would have been something that was going. I think even the miss was going viral.
I believe I saw that one. I mean, it was all over Facebook when it happened. I was just like, "Are you serious right now?"
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and he, in high school, he was coming off ACL too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the scouts rave about his 48-inch vert. So he was one guy that really impressed me. He could get his shot whenever he wanted to, and he shot it a lot better than all the scouts were saying that. That was the one knock on him, was that he wasn't a great shooter. But I'll tell you what, he was able to get a lot of open shots, and he knocked a lot of them down too. So I'd say he was one guy that really stood out to us. And then, obviously, the way Jason Tatum played offensively throughout the tournament was, I believe they're still going in the tournament, but that dude gets buckets. And then, there's a few other rookies that really stood out to us. I mean, Justin Jackson played great while we were down there. His shot kind of worries me a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be as easy to get.
Yeah, but I think with him there, he's going to be a guy that's going to have to drive to the hoop. He's definitely got to work on the 3-point game. I mean, even at Kansas, he had a bunch of openings, and he still had a hard time making shots there. But his defense and his athleticism, I think that's a plus right there. That'll help him keep him up with some of these top players. But if he can work on his shot, which I think is something, as long as you have the mechanics down and it's not something batshit crazy where it's like, I mean, if Lonzo Ball couldn't shoot with the form he has and then you had to change it completely, then that would be an issue.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in the pro league, because you get used to a form so long, and if it doesn't work, I mean, thank goodness for him it works, because to have to break down and really just transform your whole shot, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it does. So I guess those were some of the guys that really stood out to me while I was down there. I also watched a lot of marketing. The draft pick for the Bulls. He looked good in the games I watched him. He's got a smooth stroke. So yeah, those are the guys that definitely stood out to us.
He's definitely got to be a playmaker if he's gonna take some of the load, and especially if you get traded for Jimmy Butler, you got to be able to bring something to the table. I mean, that's huge.
Those are big shoes to fill.
Very big shoes. One guy that really impressed me, which I think he reminds me a lot of Kenneth Faried in the way that, again, higher draft guy, but he was, I think he's a steal. I honestly think he was a steal in the draft. Caleb Swanigan for Portland.
Yeah, Caleb played. We watched Portland and Chicago, and that was one of the games we watched all the way through. But man, that dude, he is a monster on the glass. His body translates well to the NBA game already. I mean, nobody was pushing him around. I think he's was one of the only. He might have been the only first-year guy to be averaging a double-double. So he was playing great while we were down there. Another the first rounder for Portland, Zach Collins.
Mm-hmm.
He is interesting to see because all the hype was around Collins, but Swanigan was kind of the guy that stole the show because I feel like he's just a little bit more NBA ready right now.
Yeah.
And his game kind of translates well to what Portland was needing right now in summer league. But I do believe Collins has the ability to get there. I mean, just his footwork, he just needs to tack on a little bit of weight and get ready for the physicality of the NBA.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Collins, though, that I was listening to a lot of local guys, but a lot of guys who watched his games and they broke it down. The offense thing, he just wasn't hitting shots, which is, he's got a good shot, he's got good form, and that's something that's going to follow. I think he'll start getting once he gets used to the NBA speed and the NBA game, he'll start making baskets. But the defense is already there. I think his defense is really what Portland was so impressed by. That will be huge for the team because when you look at their roster, you got Lillard, you got McCollum, you got Nurkic. You really don't need a scorer as much as you need a low post defender. So when you have Collins been as a backup, that's a good thing for him. He is strong down low. He's pretty much the opposite of Myers Leonard, in which defensively, Myers Leonard, again, a player that if Portland needs to shed contracts, I definitely think that's something. But I think they're going to keep their roster. I haven't seen any moves that they've been planning to get rid of. They've tried, but I don't see them really trying to get any contracts. They're just going to take the blow, I guess, from there.
Yeah, I mean, I like Collins a lot. Going to what you're saying about how he can be a great defender. I believe that he's going to be one of the better shot blockers out of this draft class. And I think that his game will definitely translate later on down the road. I mean, the kid's young. I believe he's only 19.
Yeah.
So
again, another freshman in the top 10. We didn't have enough of those this year. But
right.
But and again, Swanigan, I heard a lot of people just comparing him to Draymond Green. So if you get that comparison and you're able to prove it, I think that's great. And that's what the Trailblazers need, because they've got the outside scores and they have Nurkic down low that kind of runs the post, but they need a guy that is going to go in there, hit the glass, and kind of be the janitor, the guy to clean up guy. And I think the Swanigan, because again, he's undersized for his position, but he's so aggressive. And especially now in the NBA, you don't need that size, essentially, because a lot of teams are now playing small ball. So a player like Caleb Swanigan, who's athletic, who's physical, and he's still about 6'9", maybe 240, 250, so not like incredibly small, but in a small ball offense that Portland could run with him, that's huge. I think it's a good fit for him.
I'll tell you what, Swanigan, he was one of those guys that stood out to a lot of people that were there. I mean, he just translated so well right off the bat. And I think that's, going to what you're talking to is it's his motor, man. The dude just works hard. He's going after every rebound. He's going to the offensive glass every time a shot goes up. He's just he's a hard worker. And, Draymond Green, comparison's not a bad one. I don't think. I think that he's a lot like Draymond. He can kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing, and it's big shoes to fill. If he can be that kind of player that Portland needs, especially with contracts coming up in the next couple of years, you can at least find your core, and a really good young core is huge for Portland. And so we'll see. I mean, hopefully, you pray that Alan Crabb will step up this year and play to what he's worth. So, I mean, that's a big thing. He was kind of had a bad year. He had a couple good games, but then really just dropped off and not played up to his potential. And I think a lot of it, he just wasn't getting the shots. He just wasn't hitting the shots that he's known for. He's a good 3-point shooter, but he struggled from behind the arc. Myers Leonard, he's injury prone, so that's an issue. He's always he does get hurt a lot, and I think Collins is a guy that could take him over in the position. Maybe not now, but I think he can work up to it in his rookie season. But there's a lot of potential in that team. But then again, you're looking, if you want to win a championship, and now the West. I mean, the West was on a whole different level. Because now you have most of the top stars from the East getting traded over to the West. And now there was the talks about Carmelo, but now they kind of halted on those with the new GM coming in, or the new president of operations to replace Jackson. So, if Carmelo does end up going to Houston, you know how tough it is to play in the West now? I mean, you're looking your top 7, 8 teams is better than the top. Well, maybe not the top 2. I mean, Boston could be, if Jason Tatum is. I mean, if he can really produce in his rookie season, which I think he can, and especially adding on Gordon Hayward, Boston could compete. But the bar Golden State has right now, it's so hard to top that lineup. And bringing back their top 8 guys, bringing back Iguodala, getting Livingston. You add Jordan Bell, which we'll see what he can do from Oregon. But then you also have your top 4. You got Curry re-signed for 5 more years. You got Durant for 2 more years. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. And that team just is so loaded. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now Minnesota getting Jimmy Butler. That's a good trio right there.
I like what Minnesota's doing. I definitely think that they could be a top 4 team in the West when it's all said and done.
I mean, you reunite Tom Thibodeau, or you reunite Thibodeau with Butler. So right there, and you bring in Taj Gibson. So honestly, you're like Chicago. You're Chicago with some younger talent.
Yeah, and I love Karl Anthony Towns. I love Wiggins. Those are guys that are, with the leadership of, Jimmy Butler coming in, and they actually signed Jeff Teague too. So I feel like Minnesota's definitely going to be a team to watch out for, because I think talent-wise they're good enough to be top 4 or 5 in the West.
And Thibodeau bringing that, and he's got that defensive style that's so strong. He had it in Boston when he was with Doc Rivers, and he had it in Chicago. And so they have the scoring talent. And now with Butler there, who can really be the perimeter defender, head guy, and Wiggins, and then you got Cat down there underneath. Taj Gibson, a good veteran, a guy who's physical, a tough player. And Jeff Teague, I think is one of the most underrated point guards in the NBA. He's not a big name guy, but he's so consistent, and he can get you the ball to his stars, and he can make big shots when he's needed to. So I think that's a big help. And again, these guys are in their prime. They're not super old. And maybe Taj Gibson's probably the oldest one, but Butler's 27, 28. Teague's probably hovering around 30. And then you got the young talent in Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. And so, there's just a lot of potential on that team. So, and then Chicago, on the whole other hand, Chicago definitely rebuilding.
Yeah, definitely going into rebuilding mode.
Definitely. I think Zach LaVine's a great player, or could be a good player. We'll see how he does after his injury. So far, following his workouts, He's showing some promise, and then and again, like the guy Mark Hannon, if he can step up and be kind of that, he's kind of like the Dirk Nowitzki, is what potentially could be kind of the offensive 7-footer scorer, and we'll see how that works. But I mean, it's gonna be rough in Chicago this year. I really think so.
I couldn't agree more. We're playing for the lottery right now.
Playing for the lottery. You never know the
process.
the way the East is going. They could sneak into the playoffs. We never know.
Yeah, you never know in the East.
I mean, looking at the East, Philadelphia, if they can stay healthy, they can definitely be a top 4 team. I think they've got the talent. If Ben Simmons can play like his potential. I think that's the tough thing with these young teams, is they're like, oh, the potential is so high, but how long is it going to take for them to reach their potential if they reach their potential? I think that's the scary thing, and that's when you're playing with rookies, he could be really great for us in 5 years. Well, in that 5 years' time, we got to know what he's bringing to the table, because, in the NBA, you can have a great college career and then completely be a dud. I mean, there's probably more duds than studs coming out of the draft.
Exactly right. I mean, I think when it comes to Philadelphia, they got great young talent, but let's see if they can all stay healthy at first. Embiid's dealt with his injury problems. Simmons, obviously, with his injury problems. And Fultz has, got an ankle right now. So if they can all stay healthy, they should be a fun team to watch.
And don't they have was it Saric or another, the other big guy?
Dario. Yeah, he's solid. I think he made first team all rookie. So, yeah, they got some great young talent, and in the East, you never know. They could definitely be, one of the better teams in the East if everything comes together the way they want it to. And I do like, they signed Amir Johnson and J.J. Redick, so that should give them some solid veteran.
J.J. Redick, still one of my favorite players ever. When he played for Duke, I literally watched every game. Any game that was on ESPN that I could watch, I would watch. Everybody hated J.J. Redick, and I think out of everybody in our town, or definitely in my family, because most of them root for UNC. I was probably the only one to root for Duke, but J.J. Redick was my boy. And I'm happy to see him after the long career he's had. He's finally getting success, especially at a later edge, which again I think is because of the 3-point ball. Finally, they're able to use his talent and really capitalized on that, because he was a phenomenal shooter in college, and then you bring him into Orlando, and he was good for that system because he was a person you could throw it to Dwight Howard and pass it off to him and get him an open shot. But it took him a long time, and like you said, it took him a long time in the process before he became an NBA starter. It really did. He didn't get there till about 28. So, a good 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I like JJ. I think he's going to definitely be great for the young guys over in Philadelphia. A guy that can, defend and shoot 3-ball is definitely going to help that young squad out.
And I think the big thing with the rise of the 3-point game is it's going to give a lot of these older guys longer years in the NBA, because now they don't have to be. They don't have to be the starters, and they don't have to be the guys that can run up and down and have to get back and play transitional defense, except for Vince Carter, because he's a fucking freak of nature athletically. Vince Carter 40 is like most players 25. It's scary. He's still throwing under-the-leg dunks during warm-ups and stuff like that, and you're just like, he's 40, right? He's 40, and he's still got a 40 vert.
It's insane to, think about, some of the older guys in the league, but, older guys stick, guys that can shoot stick. Jason Terry's still around. James Jones always getting these new contracts to stay on, championship teams. Mike Miller, those type of guys are always going to be able to stick around because, they can shoot. And, championship teams are always needing shooters to come off the bench. So.
Kyle Korver, his career completely transformed. He had that big year in Atlanta, and now he's a situational shooter. He's more of a starter now for Cleveland, Well, that's just because they really don't have the depth at that position. But
Right.
but his 3-point game, if he gets rolling, he's pretty tough. He's pretty tough to stop. So I think it's a great thing for the NBA to have that longevity of a career from the 3-point line.
Yeah. I mean, when you get to play with guys like LeBron and Kyrie, it definitely is the greatest thing for most shooters. I mean, you saw how well Ray fit with LeBron down in Miami. And it's because when you play with guys like LeBron and Kyrie, they're able to get you open shots. And really, when you're a catch and shoot guy, all you need is a little bit of space. And having guys like Kyrie and LeBron on the court, definitely help contribute to get you a lot of open shots.
Yeah, and I remember they're always talking every year. They're talking, Ray Allen, if you came back, would you go play for Golden State for another ring? I mean, they always ask him. He's like, I'm 42. I'm just gonna stay retired, but I think I could hang with these guys. Yeah, if they want. And it's like, man, they keep every year they bring up that one question to Ray Allen. Do you want to get another ring? You can go to Golden State or Cleveland. Choose your pick. But I mean, yeah, if I was an NBA player and I was at 40 years old and I never had a ring, and they offered me a minimum contract to play for Golden State, even if I was the water boy essentially or the towel person, yeah, I would do it. You get paid to play on one of the best teams in the NBA. Maybe, I mean, it's hard to compare them all time because, this is 2 different periods. I think it's hard to compare teams from the 80s to the 90s to now because the game is completely different. I mean, if, for example, you put Golden State now compared to Houston in the early 90s. Perimeter-wise, Golden State's got them beat. Hands down. But then you throw the Dream in there. And I'm just thinking, who on Golden State could stand up to Hakeem? Because
nobody would be able to.
Exactly. And it's funny listening to, because I listen to a lot of these old podcasts with NBA legends, and they're talking to the Olajuwon and Kenny Jet. I love listening to Kenny Smith. He has a lot of funny stories, and he's just a bright guy. And he's just like, yeah, I was in the locker room one day and I was talking to Hakeem, and he's like, he just looks at me and he's like, oh, I don't have to play tonight. I'm like, bullshit, you don't have to play tonight. He's like, oh, no. You know who I'm playing? If there's 3 centers in the NBA I have to worry about, I'm not playing him tonight. And so he's like, yeah, he always made it hard on me because, he knew when he played either Shaq, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, and Abdul-Jabbar would have been before that. But, there's a few centers that he actually had to play. And then he looked at, and then Kenny just looked at it like, that's bullshit because there's a ton of point guards I have to play every night for, and I'm not as good as Dream, so I have to do all the work on the perimeter wise. And then he just, he can just coast and have a great night on lousy guys. And then when he played Shaq, he actually had put some effort in.
Yeah. I think going back to your point, it's hard to say what, the games would look like now. It'd be great if they're all in their prime and they could actually play against each other, but unfortunately that's never going to happen. So it's hard to speculate, but I think that each generation there's something that sets them apart, and I feel like back then the game was just far more physical, and the game's transitioning into being more of a shooters league. And it's interesting to talk about, and everybody wants to know what it would be like. But yeah, it's tough to say for sure what who would actually win those matchups.
Yeah, it's still a question I don't think can be answered honestly. Because when you ask somebody that question, it's going to be biased. I don't think you're going to have a straight answer that's down the middle, because you're either talking to a guy who's from the modern era basketball, it's like Golden State, or a guy who grew up in the 90s watching, let's say when they were comparing, the 95, 96 Bulls to the Warriors of now, who would win? Well, it depends on where you what basketball you watched and where you grew up. I really think so. I mean, if you grew up in the 90s, you're going Bulls. I mean, it's just hands down, you're going Michael Jordan. But if you watch basketball and grew up in the era from, let's say, like 2005 to now, you're going Golden State. I mean, it's just it's the time periods.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, the bias is definitely there.
I mean, you can break it down. If you're able to break down that stats to try to really figure out and crank down the numbers to see who would win, you're probably an analyst for ESPN. I mean, really, that's about it, because it's just such a tough question to answer. And the same thing with like comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I don't think that serves justice because they're two completely different players. I mean, the closest one would probably be Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan because they're, pretty much similar players. But I can never compare LeBron to Michael Jordan because they're just completely different. I mean, if I was to ask the question like who would win in a one-on-one at their peaks, I would. Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I still would kind of favor LeBron James if they're both in their prime playing one-on-one. And for this, pretty much this own part of the game, I just think LeBron's defense is a notch ahead of Michael Jordan. Now, I think LeBron's athletically a freak too. They're both athletically freaks. I think it's kind of a draw there. You could probably throw down if LeBron James was able to compare the posts. Now, if you throw LeVar Ball in there, oh man, that would be interesting. I want to see that now. I think honestly, like especially with like the new Big Three, I really like watching the 3-on-3 Ice Cube's Big Three. I mean and I think that's a shooter's paradise. That game is. That's huge.
Yeah, it's fun to watch, that's for sure.
Especially you get to watch my boy Jason Williams. Oh my goodness. My
white chocolate.
Just in the way that he's able to do what he's still doing until he got hurt. That was kind of sad to see. But I mean, the elbow pass, still a favorite. The out of nowhere behind the back elbow pass. Just crossing up people left and right. This under 6 foot white guy just cranking up lands underneath guys that are like 6'7", 6'8". You don't know where the ball is at any time when he's on the court.
Jay Will's a fun guy to watch for sure.
Just a magician. I was looking at you guys. You also had kind of a thing with EA Sports, or you went down.
Yeah.
So kind of run us through the whole EA Sports experience.
Yeah, that was a cool experience. They kind of reached out to us last minute just because our channel size was so big, and that's how they wanted to do a lot of their marketing for the new NBA Live 18 game. So they asked us to come to this exclusive event out in Beverly Hills, and we accepted. We were like, yeah, why not? We'll go check out the game, get some cool content for the channel, and then, it helps them out too. So it was a win-win for both of us. And, I'm excited to see what the new game looks like. Mm-hmm. The gameplay definitely looks next level. I feel like it's going to be able to compete a lot better with 2K now. And it should be interesting to see how it does.
It's hard to I remember still my favorite game. I'm a big 2K fan. Have been since I think the first really. I played NBA 2K8 on the PS2 with my little brother like all the time. It was just like we were the guys that would start an association, play it for about 6-7 years, and then start a new one. Get to the point where our teams are just completely stacked. And then okay, let's do something else. Let's do a new team. Let's do let's try to switch it up, see how we can do. And we still do that to these days. And I think that makes it fun with that. But NBA Live, I was so hooked into that series. My first basketball game of all time, NBA Live 2001 for the PlayStation 1, Kevin Garnett on the cover. I would play that game hours and hours every day. I mean, just, oh man, that game was just ridiculous because they had the street ball, they had all these challenges, but they had all these like cheat codes and all these Easter eggs you can unlock, like the giant player, the robot eye. I mean, just like all these different fun things. And NBA Live was like the king of basketball, I think, all the way to about 2005. And then that's when NBA 2K6 came out. You could see there's going to be a transition. Just 2K. Yeah. I mean, same thing with 2K and Madden. Until recent years of Madden, EA was able to take over the football world. But I mean, EA Sports was huge, and then 2K came in and just kind of shifted the balance over to 2K.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how this new game does. I mean, we got to see some exclusive footage of the game and stuff like that. I can't talk a lot about it until it's released, but I really think that it's going to do well. Being a guy that loves 2K, I think that this is a game that's definitely going to compete a lot better. So, and it'll be interesting.
It will be interesting to see. And I mean, the last 2 years, I think they were just scratching on the surface. The last two NBA Live games, and they were just kind of getting back because again, they took that absence of time because 2K got so huge, and their sales. I mean, they had to completely just redo everything, pretty much start from scratch. Still one of my favorite games. I'm hoping that they ever bring this back. Was the college games, college basketball.
I couldn't agree with you more.
College basketball. 2K8 was one of my favorites. 2K5 and 2K4 with Red. 2K4 had Reddick on the front. I played that game for the Xbox forever, and then the whole NCAA football. I mean, I was a diehard. There would be years where I'd just get college football. I didn't care about Madden. The only thing I'd use Madden for is to import my college players into Madden. That would be the only reason to buy Madden for me. But, I mean, I just miss those games so much. I know they're trying to bring it back in some way that doesn't bring up the same clauses in court that it had issues with last time with the, using the players' likenesses and stuff. And it's hard to do. I mean, unless you completely just scratch out, just get in. But, I mean, you see that in NBA 2K where they're starting to use the colleges. You can get the college jerseys, and when you do My Career, you get to choose an actual college, and you get to use the school uniform, the school gym, and stuff like that. So I think it's a start. It's a start for maybe building up to an NCAA college basketball game. That would be a lot of fun to see that because I miss the recruiting. I mean, actually getting to recruit high school players and getting really into like your team and stuff like that. I miss that aspect. The NBA doesn't really bring because it's all contracts. Like now, it's just like, yo, I have this much money. I'll go get that player. It's like, no, I want to beat out schools and recruit my guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also excited to see where NBA Live and 2K go in the future, but I don't know. We'll see. I
want it to be the point where I got to get both games to really, I want to be able to compare them. I want them to push it to where I have to buy both. And I think that's.
Well, I think seeing 2K. I mean, I play the newest 2K. Every once in a while, and seeing that game footage and then the NBA Live game footage, I really think that they're evening the playing field quite a bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Jake, I mean, it has been a pleasure to have you here on the show, and we're going to have to do it again sometime because, I mean, especially once we get back into basketball, NBA season coming up, I mean, that's going to be huge. I know that's a huge time for you. Especially now that the NBA Summer League's, it's getting to that period where it's kind of an NBA dead because football's coming in. I know that's everybody's getting excited at, but NBA it's getting big now, popularity wise. I mean, it's getting big. It's getting the good following again, And this summer league, I think this has probably been the most watched summer league in, I don't know, probably 10 years. I mean, maybe since LeBron went in the summer league in that 2003.
That 2003 draft class was pretty fun too.
I mean, Lonzo Ball, you got him throwing triple doubles, having big games. I mean,
yeah, he was fun to watch, man. That dude's gonna be a star too. So
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of talent, and we're excited for the NBA season. And you know what? I think that's a great point. We're gonna end our show on tonight. Again, Jake, it was an honor to have you on here. Love talking basketball with you. And again, Shot Mechanics. Go check it out on YouTube. Also, go to their Instagram, Facebook. I mean, just go to every page. Good stuff, especially if you want to be a shooter. I mean, they're gonna help you and all there. And Jake, any final words here?
Going back to getting guys to follow us on our social media platforms. We've got a lot of free content. So we love to help young players out as much as possible. So we know you're getting a lot of local guys listen to your podcasts and stuff like that. So for all you kids out there, guys that are trying to get better, go ahead and give us a follow. And we put out a ton of free content each week, usually 3 to 4 videos. And you guys can check us out a little bit. But, Curran, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a long time since our EOU days.
I remember that. I remember we were in advertising, I believe, an advertising class, and we always end up just talking basketball afterwards. That was the thing, though. that was our thing. It's always fun to talk basketball, especially here in the Walla Walla area. We've got basketball fever with the Whitman Blues. They made it to the NCAA Division III Final Four last year. They were the only undefeated NCAA team up until the Final Four. And they've got the same team with additions coming back this year. And so for all you Whitman fans and all your Whitman players, as we're going to get a couple of them on our show later this summer, go follow Shot Mechanics because they shoot a lot of threes too. They're all good shots, but you can always get better. And Jake and Shot Mechanics, they're going to help you do that. So
I love it, man. Well, thanks for having me on. Hopefully we can do it again.
Yep. Thank you, Jake. That's going to do it here for the J2C show. We will be back next week. We will be back with our full group. We'll have JC and JT as they recover from their big vacation with Willow Lake. We'll have some stories about that, and that'll be all for the next show. Thanks, guys, for listening. This has been the J2C show.